All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council to order. Note attendance. We are expecting the absence of Sheriff Schulteis. County Executive Shulman has been unexpectedly unable to attend this morning for reasons that the membership is aware of. Otherwise, everyone else is in attendance. I'll note the affidavit of posting for today's meeting by the clerk's office. We will start with a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business on our agenda is to review our minutes from our June 9th meeting. Those were included in the packets. Second. Item of discussion that I did share with Attorney Bratz. If you look at item C, my recollection of our discussion was that District Attorney Bratz accepted the chair position for our subcommittee for pretrial. The minutes indicate Sheriff Schulteis. I did indicate this might be his opportunity to let the minutes stand, given that the sheriff was unable to attend this morning. So we'll let him discuss that if he so chooses. But that was my recollection, unless anyone else, unless I'm mistaken.
No, we can amend that.
You'll still accept.
Take advantage of his absence.
Yeah, you'll still accept the workload?
Yes.
Okay. Then with that, anyone, any other amendments to the minutes?
No, I'll just amend my initial motion to make a change to query heading the subcommittee and the rest of the minutes.
A second on that? Any further discussion? All right, then we will, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those minutes pass as amended then. All right, let's turn to the balance of our agenda. Our first item is returning to the work of our strategic plan. First item is to review the draft data sharing policy that was prepared by a coordinator, County Attorney Stern. That was included in your packet. Attorney Stern, would you please walk us through it?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. We, at the last meeting, after the last meeting, I should say, the judge and I had talked about perhaps preparing a data sharing agreement that the members could sign, that would sort of set forth the roles and responsibilities as the subcommittees begin their work and trade information back and forth. But as I got into that project, it dawned on me that I don't think a data sharing agreement was really appropriate, for lots of reasons. Maybe perhaps the most obvious would be, let's say, Chief Daring decides he's going to sign that agreement and then a few days later decides he's not going to turn data over. We're not taking the chief to court to enforce an agreement, obviously. So we thought, what's the better way to go? And the better way to go is likely just to put a policy in place that the subcommittees and the CJCC in general can abide by, that talk about when we do bring data to the CJCC and the subcommittees for use in developing programs and recommendations and so forth. What do we do with that data? How is it handled? And this policy essentially is designed to do that. If you had a chance to take a look at it in the packet, what you'll see is it talks a lot about the fact that when you provide data to the CJCC, a couple things. First of all, we really want to limit its use to only those things that it's intended to be used for. It's not intended necessarily to be posted around the world. You bring data to a subcommittee, the point is that it'll be used by those members of that subcommittee or the CJCC in general to formulate policies, programs, and recommendations. The other thing you'll notice within this policy is how we deal with potential open records requests. Because this is a body that has to abide by the public records laws, we want to make sure that everybody's clear on what happens to the data they bring. What I want you to understand is any data you provide, your organization, your agency continues to own. But once the data is provided to the CJCC and it comes into the custody of the CJCC, we are required to abide by the public records laws. And there may be times we get a request, we have to turn certain information over, even raw data. What I'm asking you to do as we go forward and that you provide data is if there's something that's sensitive or confidential, you let me know that. That doesn't mean the information might not still be released if a records request comes in, but at least it gives me an opportunity to examine whether we're going to release it or how we're going to handle it if a request comes in. And I will also do my best whenever I can, although the law doesn't require it, I will reach out to you and let you know that data has been requested or a records request has come in. That again doesn't mean that I'm giving you an opportunity to say, well, don't release that. I'm doing it more as a courtesy because the law requires us to release information. So be mindful of what it is you're providing to the CJCC or the subcommittees. If it's something you really don't think should go, perhaps don't turn the actual data over. Maybe it's something we just discussed within the subgroup, that kind of thing. So those are the real high points. I wanted to give some definitions as to what we're talking about in terms of data and so forth and what it means. I can be the clearinghouse for the data. So if you want to give whatever you have to me, and then I can turn it over to the members of the subcommittee and also take a look at anything you may have marked and do any redactions you'd like made and that kind of thing. I'm happy to assist with that as well. So that's really the long and short of it. What I also want to say is if you get records requests within your own organizations, those are things you may have to still comply with on your own. You have those responsibilities outside of the CJCC. But anything that comes to the CJCC, whether it's a media request or something from the public, those will generally, if you get something, let me know. If it's CJCC related, if I get something, I'll let you know, and I'll handle all of the distribution and I will also be the custodian of those records for the CJCC, meaning I'll keep sort of the database, if you will. For information that's going to be turned over, any data that's going to be turned over, we can talk about that ahead of time individually as to how you want to transmit that to me. Policy calls for it being turned over in a format that if it's electronic that I can distribute, if it's paper, I can scan in, that kind of thing. But I can work with you as individuals as well, so that we make sure that information comes in and is processed appropriately as quickly as possible. So I don't know if there's any questions. I wasn't going to really go line by line through it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if there's any requests or changes or any more modifications you'd like to make, but essentially, I think we're looking for a motion today to adopt the policy or some version of it.
Questions for County Attorney Stern, our coordinator, in terms of how the policy has been drafted for the group's consideration?
Naive on the record, but I'm fully trusted you'll conduct this on a balancing test until release. Redaction, will you follow the standard redactions? My question being, should I redact before I give to you, or can I trust that if the records would be released on the balancing test that you?
Well, I will certainly do the balancing test, whether you've redacted something or not. If it's something that you believe should be redacted based on your own, legal information, legal counsel, you have redacted, and when it gets here, because we don't really need names, we don't need anything. I think that's sensitive. I think we're looking more very likely for just information that helps us formulate recommendations and policies and programs and things like that. I think that sensitive information of that nature we wouldn't probably want anyway, but I would say if you don't want it released, don't give that to us. Yeah. Okay. But I will conduct the balancing test either way. And for those who don't know, in the public records law, what happens is when I get a request, I have to look at the request and analyze it under Chapter 19, which is where the records laws lie. What Chapter 19 says is there are certain records we must release, certain records we can never release, and the records that fall in between, we do a balancing test. And the obligation I have is to determine whether the public's right to have that information is outweighed by some greater privacy interest. It's very subjective. And that's why it may be information I don't really understand, the sensitivity of it. It's not something I typically deal with. That's why I'd want to reach out to you and say, what do we have here? And if you say, oh yeah, this is really, sensitive things, then I balance that and determine whether or not that really should go out the door or not. And there's case law miles and miles long that talk about when you release something and when you don't, but I'll work with you on that too if it really comes down to something that troubles us. Okay. My pleasure.
To flush that out one step further, nothing prevents members from conducting their own redactions when they choose to submit data to the CJCC. Is that fair?
That's correct, and I'd encourage it.
Right.
Because what you'll have the raw data. You may have to do your own balancing test if someone wants your raw data. But what I have on behalf of the CJCC, I can only give out what I have, right? So if it's redacted, it's redacted if that's what I have. And by the way, records that are redacted, we still have to give out the parts that aren't redacted. So, you know, we might cross out 5 lines, but line 6, if that's all that's left, still goes out the door in response to a records request, just so you know. And if you have any questions about records requests, we do that full time upstairs in my office. I'm more than happy to have conversations with you about that offline. I won't bore you with it too much this morning, but that's sort of the, you know, pulling back the curtain, let you see what we do. Okay.
Just to provide an example to the group as well, the concept of data has been discussed a number of times in terms of driving decision-making for the group and driving policy decisions in the work of the group. Could you walk us through when a member chooses or provides data in response to a request from a subcommittee or from the CJCC, how you envision that data being provided, how you envision it being mined into a format that is digestible for this group, where you envision it being housed, et cetera, so the group has an understanding as to sort of that path forward?
Yeah, I mean, when data is requested, let's say that one of the subcommittees decides they're going to gather up a certain information of some kind. And you're asked to provide information. Maybe it's just one of you, maybe it's several of you at the same time. You can, if you want to email that to me, if it's electronic, that's probably the easiest thing to do because I'm able to work with IT here at the county to establish databases where I keep that stuff specifically. And that's where it'll be housed. I would then distribute it to you electronically under the terms and guise of the policy, which says only those who need it will get it. And you know, it'll only be used for the purposes that we intend to use it for. And so I would get it to you that way. If it's something like today, it was short notice a little bit. I worked yesterday for quite a bit of time with our wonderful IT team and Elijah upstairs in the budget office to help me analyze and put together the survey results before you in a format you could read. Those things I may bring hard copies to. I guess it may vary depending on the situation, but ultimately upstairs, I'll have a place where all that is kept either electronically or quite frankly, a physical filing cabinet area, because the CJCC, the coordination portion of it, which falls under the purview of my office, I do maintain separate files and folders just as I do any other caseload. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion points for County Attorney Stern? Then before you was a suggestion from your coordinator to consider a motion for the to pass this policy. If there is an interest, then that would be before you.
I would move to adopt the policy as presented.
Any second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion regarding the policy? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the policy passes.
Thank you.
Attorney Stern, for your work in that regard. Then we will note the completion of this objective. I'm sorry, I thought you said something. Note the completion of this. It's a tactic on one of our objectives related to the strategic plan. Thank you for your work in that regard. Turning to the next item on our agenda that relates to the, again, continues the work of the strategic plan, relates to communications. We have our Chief Public Safety Officer who has agreed to provide some work for us in the area of communications. You were ahead of the game on this because if the group remembers, I think it was October of last year, you were spearheading this before we had even gotten our strategic plan up and running. So thank you for working ahead. And now is your opportunity to remind the group about our opportunities for utilizing county infrastructure for communications and the work you had started regarding the website.
Right, thank you, Your Honor. Last October, we worked alongside Elisha Durr, Dr. Wappert and Michelle Von Hayden to create a website on our homepage that reflects the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. I could email it to you. I believe I emailed it to you, Your Honor.
I think you emailed it to the whole group.
I can't recall, but it's not public facing right now. So looking for direction on that piece to put it public facing. The Public Safety Committee did adopt our strategic priorities back in November. So willing to work alongside Dr. Wappert and Elisha and Michelle in that regard to continue our efforts, creating a dashboard if that even comes about and communicating to the public in that regard.
So in our priority area for strengthening the CJCC, our third goal is developing and implementing a communications plan. First tactic there indicates establishing a communications work group. You indicated that several members or identified several county employees. Would that be your vision for a work group?
I believe so, unless you have any suggestions of anybody else, I would absolutely take on Julie Driscoll if she's willing to do so.
She just shook her head.
Like this?
The wrong direction.
No, they're very capable individuals. We're lucky to have them, and Elisha's exceptional, and Dr. Woppert. We have a really good team, but if anybody would like to have some input on that, more than willing to onboard anybody for that committee.
I think the vision thus far has been to lean on the county infrastructure
Mhm.
in order to provide the CJCC support with regards to both not only data mining and housing the data, but also creating a website, creating communications platform, et cetera. The county has so much of that infrastructure already, and the CJCC's efforts would easily align with that. It doesn't mean we can't go in a different direction, but to be transparent, it doesn't appear as though there is infrastructure or resources available in a different direction, quite frankly. So, any other thoughts or suggestions? Do you feel comfortable leading that work group?
I certainly can do that, Judge. Of
Would you
course.
accept a nomination as to chair that work group?
Certainly, if I can have a co-chair. No, I'm more than happy to do it.
Then I'll make a motion to nominate Public Safety Officer Sager as chair of the communications work group with a membership to be determined by him with the individuals that he has already identified. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Then in terms of next steps regarding that website, you indicated it is not public facing.
Correct.
Not sure how that transition goes from an intra-facing website to public facing, and what materials the group is comfortable having on that website. So we have bylaws, we have minutes, we have agendas, we have a strategic plan. So we have a variety of materials that we are utilizing on a regular basis. They are currently being used, made available to the membership and the public via the meetings website that the county utilizes for all of their other public meetings, et cetera. Do you have any thoughts on whether any of that would either duplicate onto the CJCC website or otherwise be housed there?
It can be housed there. I'm also thinking of all the data sharing that we're going to be doing amongst each other and what priorities we can check off as we go forward with the CJC, and just informing the public of the work that the CJCC is doing.
So more to come from you in the
I
work
would-
group
I would
on that?
imagine, I mean, I've taken all kinds of input. I'll be the chair of the committee, but I can't imagine all the things that you would like to see on that here, as well as everybody else here.
Sure. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to hear from everyone in the group as to how to utilize that in order to not only house information that's essential to the membership, but also to the public as well. And that's, I think, just sort of a conversation I was looking to have to see if there's any insight to provide you as you get this running, get this started. Any additional comments for now our chair of the communications work group?
There are some really good examples from longstanding, really high-level operating CJCC across the country. So I would just encourage looking at what some of the counties and jurisdictions have done. Really states mission statement, if not the full strategic plan, a snapshot of it, and then that subcommittees, so that in future subcommittees can have a way to specifically up their priorities, because otherwise that seems to be too much to include in a main, like, one page altogether. And then this may be what you mentioned already, but certainly some kind of visual to represent the CJCC's progress in completing its objectives over time, whether that's in a timeline format or whatever visual that the work group would find best.
I've spent more time than I'd like to admit looking at Waukesha's. You know, every CJCC has their positives and areas for improvement. I think their website has a number of features that would be of benefit to our CJCC. They are so farther along than we are. Something to note when you look at their website is that they're 20+ years in terms of their CJCC lifespan. But there's quite a few components there that I think could be of value to us as well.
Very good.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anything else on that topic then, before we move on to number C? Or letter C, rather? Okay, in that regard, let's turn to the membership questionnaire. So this references the objective of strengthening the CJCC, establishing a unified vision, purpose, and role of CJCC and its members. The first tactic was to create and distribute a pre-work questionnaire about the CJCC's purpose, vision, and member roles. So in that regard, what you received by way of your email was that questionnaire. It was meant to draw your attention to existing provisions of the bylaws, ask you to provide feedback as to your, satisfaction as to how those existing bylaws meet the objectives of the CJCC. And then consider member statements, member commitment statements, member role statements, and the like, as to whether they would add value to our CJCC or not, and then compare and contrast that. That was the purpose of the survey. So Attorney Stern provided you with a summary of those results. We could start first with the discussion of the summary to see whether or not there is anything of interest for the membership in terms of revising the bylaws, adding to the bylaws, etc. That is the point of the discussion, is to return to those bylaws and determine whether there's anything the membership wishes to take action on. Yes.
I would find it helpful to, I can see and reference the bylaws. Now that the survey, I'm not sure, I didn't see it in the meeting packet, if there's a place where there's the roles, responsibilities, if there's another document where that exists, because it would be helpful to compare and contrast and or review that information again. Sure. If someone can correct me.
The survey questions? Is that what you're asking?
And the proposed information.
It doesn't look like that was included in the summary. Attorney Stern, do we have access to provide the content of the survey again?
I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, because part of this is considering whether or not to change the bylaws or adopt any of this information that was proposed in the survey, right?
Correct. So revisiting the current language of the bylaws. So for example, I have one copy of the survey in a very rough format, but the first question asks you to review the authority, purpose, and mission section, which is the first page of the bylaws, and then ask you to rank your satisfaction. 1, very dissatisfied, 5, very satisfied. So I see your point. You're trying to track the responses in the survey handout to the questions on the survey. Is it possible to pull the survey up on the overhead? Okay.
So I'm sorry, what are you looking for us to answer right now?
It's a general discussion with regards to the survey results at this point. And I'm hoping Attorney Stern is able to pull up the survey on the overhead screen. So, to Andy Freeman's request, we are looking at the survey and also the survey results at the same time,
Yeah,
which is a reasonable request.
are you wanting us to start the discussion though?
If you're ready, if you
Sure.
have, if you have a point to make, do.
Sure, I mean, I don't actually know what my point is to make, just trying to like, you know, synthesize this, I haven't had a chance to look at it before this. I don't know what this tells me. That's kind of how I feel about it. It doesn't seem, you know, there's nothing really that like is really jumping out at me. And then obviously if you read the long form responses, there's some stuff in here. That's interesting. So, but outside of that, I don't really know. There's nothing that says like, okay, here's what this is telling me at a high level that I can ascertain. And I don't know if anybody else feels like they have that, you know, a grasp of that.
And and there wasn't an area in which you saw a clear indication that the group should move in one direction or another. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Unless I'm just not, unless somebody can help me synthesize this a little bit better.
We have very superficial look at it from my standpoint, because I'm often very superficial, but it looks like we're a very agreeable group. And it looks like the group is probably in agreement that we might be spending a lot of time parsing out whether a member role is important or the member commitment statement. Seems like the group is really like, meh, whatever, I don't care, let's just get back to actual operational and getting stuff done. That's my supervision. When I looked at it, that's what's up. Really, really agreeable group. I really want to talk to our dissenter, because I bet they've got some great ideas. It wasn't me, just to get that on record. But when I looked at that survey, that's what I saw. To me, is that we're we think we're heading in the right direction. We think, I thought it maybe like the minutia doesn't necessarily, feels like maybe we don't have strong feelings, so we're just like, let's get on with it. It's kind of what I read out of it, so. Again.
Thank you for saying that. I'm kind of like 99% in agreement with what you just said. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a good summary.
Agreed. My one area,
Kill this guy.
Yeah,
my areas of feedback was regarding the member commitment and member role. Feeling it would be helpful to combine if everyone felt it would be beneficial to have something to that effect. Added to the bylaws, but otherwise, agreed.
You try the one next to you.
Keep in mind that this was part of our strategic plan to review our bylaws, but nothing actually requires us to change anything. So there was thought put in, at least as part of the strategic plan, to revisit them and have the discussion to determine whether there was a consensus to revise or change or add to the bylaws, but nothing actually requires the group to take any action whatsoever. So to everyone's, or at least to several members' points where there is no overwhelming data to indicate that the group has a consensus to move in one direction or another, that very well may be telling the membership something, that there just isn't overwhelming energy to make a move at this time. And that tells you something about where we're at with the bylaws. That may not be the case in 18 months or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. Bylaws need to be revisited over time.
Yeah, I actually thought it was positive. I thought we did a good job on the bylaws on our initial run. That's what I was thinking. no real red flag that, oh my gosh, this is terrible, we're missing something, there's no gap analysis. I thought it was fantastic.
And that, certainly that could be it, or it's just good enough for now in terms of what we're currently accomplishing right now. I mean,
Let's not adopt that as a model.
good enough for now. You don't want that to be the mission statement? Good enough for now? Revisit later? Attorney Stern was able to get up those question or the survey questions, so we could briefly walk through it. We could conclude that the data lacks an indication that action is warranted.
The only thing that I would say, I don't know if it warrants action, is that the only area that there seems to be more of a distribution across dissatisfaction and satisfied is around this member commitment statement question. And I just don't know if that's worth talking about. Because I think what this, if I'm understanding the survey and I'm understanding the intent, is trying to get at, like, do we feel like we need more formalized language around what we're all gonna commit to doing?
Yes, correct. So this was part of what JMI's suggestion was in terms of revisiting bylaws. Some CJCCs have bylaws that include these components, ours do not, hence have this conversation, see if your membership wants these components. One suggestion was a member role statement from JMI. One suggestion was a member commitment statement. Where did this language come from? It came from samples from JMI. That's where it came from, which were, developed over however many years of CJCC developments that they came from. Attorney Stern, could you show the group the member role statement draft, which might be on page 6?
Crystal clear.
If I might add, in that regard, I did have concerns when we first started about attendance and making sure that all the parties were going to be here. I think in the time since we have established a regular meeting time, that is less of a concern because it is less arbitrary and everyone has been able to get on their schedules that, yep, the second Tuesday of the month, 7:30 in the morning, we're there. So I'm not concerned about the commitment of any of the members of this committee. So while at one time it may have been important to address that, I'm not sure it is any.
Yeah, the way that I'm reading this is that there's strong agreement of our general commitments, right? Of that we, communication and addressing system-wide challenges, of doing our, of fulfilling our role, but formalizing a statement, there's a wide distribution of agreement on that. So there's inherent agreement that we're here and we're committed and we're communicating and we're going to work towards positive outcomes, but not necessarily that we put it in a statement.
Yeah, I don't think there, in my opinion, there is no one at this table whose motives or opinions or commitment is suspect, right? Everyone is here participating. And so I don't know. Do we need it? I think not.
And that's how I looked at it as well. From my perspective, it was really just, do I think it's necessary? No. And I kind of will echo what Chief Deering said. Ultimately, I didn't know if we needed to be focused on adding more information or letters and pages to our bylaws. I didn't think it was necessary. At the same time, I'm indifferent. If somebody feels strongly about it, you're not going to have a massive objection from me, but
I think looking at the future, like our individual names are not tied to this body, rather it's our positions. So in the future, give or take, what if we have an individual where they come in and maybe they aren't as team focused or goal objective? I don't necessarily think that this group currently needs it, but I think looking long term, right? Waukesha County's been up in 20 years, like they've probably seen a fast change of their body, where maybe it probably wouldn't hurt to have it at some point. Maybe it's not a priority within this calendar year. But I think that there should be some boundaries or expectations within our bylaws regarding the individuals that have to sit here at one point. We're all not gonna be here forever.
Fair point.
So it sounds like you talked to somebody from JMI, because that's very much the vision and the guidance that you get from, our partners at JMI, who have worked with a number of CJCCs and then often provide that counterpoint and that counter perspective, which says, look past today, look past your current body, your membership, look past the people that sit in the chairs and think, larger scale. So I appreciate your perspective in that regard. Which is, I'm sure, why they recommended that we include it in our strategic plan. Doesn't mean we have to do it now. So.
What are your thoughts, Your Honor?
My thoughts are very in line with the rest of yours, which is I looked at
Okay.
the data. I did have time to take a look at the data. Not because I got it significantly in advance of anyone else, but it didn't suggest to me that there was strong indication from the group to move in one direction or another. I saw no measurable difference between the suggestion for a member role statement or a member commitment statement, which personally I found to be splitting hairs in terms of what they would bring to the group. And so I was admittedly somewhat frustrated in terms of presenting those options to the group, because it seems like, what is the distinction? What is the appreciable difference other than wordsmithing and how it looks in the bylaws? One's a paragraph, the other one is bullet points and formatting. So I struggled with that in terms of presenting it to the group. I think Agent Cannon looks at it farther ahead, which I think does bring value. To me, this isn't an item that needs a ton of energy. So I think we're okay if we move on from it and remind ourselves that we may need to circle back at some point in time. But this to me is a one meeting, one discussion issue, and then we move on from it and continue the work of our strategic plan and our subcommittees and keep moving on. But that's to me what this is worth. I'm fine either way, but there's clearly no strong indication either direction from the group, and sometimes that means you sit still and revisit in the future.
Just for clarification, I do think it's important to have member expectations in our bylaws. It's just that we don't care which, to your point, you just said it very, what format it's in. You have set up expectations clearly. Someone who's not good with CJCs, he doesn't really care about our bylaws either, right? But it's good to have them set, and so we can remind people and people enter, especially as those some clarity of what's expected. Makes sense. I think it's concept we all agree on. So really,
With that being said, I think you're right. There should be something in the bylaws. I'm gonna suggest we take the bullet format, put it in and be done with it, so we can move on. And that may not be as thoughtful as some people would like, but we're kind of beating this thing out.
That you mean this version?
Yes.
Could you scroll down, Attorney Stern, and present the member commitment statement, which is the bullet point version? That's, I think, on your page 8. Yes, so this is that sample member commitment statement. Can you read that for us? Can anybody read that, or is that just my vision? Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm right here. I can't.
Right, nobody.
All right, I'll read it. Okay, sample member commitment statement. As members of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, we commit to attend and actively participate in meetings and work groups. Approach issues from a system-wide perspective while respectfully representing our agencies and stakeholders. Engage in open, honest, and respectful dialogue. Share information, expertise, and data when appropriate to support informed decision-making. Foster collaboration and build trust among partners. Support evidence-based and data-informed strategies. Focus on solutions that improve public safety, system effectiveness, and community well-being. Promote CJCC initiatives within our organizations and communities. Accept shared responsibility for advancing the council's goals and carrying out agreed-upon actions.
I'll move adoption.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Let me just double check one thing. Attorney Stern, this would be considered an inclusion into the bylaws?
Okay,
He said, okay. Let me clarify the motion. Supervisor Schwab, was that a motion to include this into the bylaws?
Yes, for adoption.
And a second.
And a second on that? Okay, I want to redo that vote to make sure everyone realizes that. I do need a 2/3 vote for from the membership. I just want to clarify that we were amending the bylaws then. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same vote. We had 2 abstentions, but it still passes at a 2/3. And my vote was in favor as well, for clarity.
I will amend the bylaws to include that information and distribute a copy.
All right, that addresses the issue of a member commitment statement. In terms of the balance of the survey and the results of it, any additional items for which anyone concluded it was worthy of additional discussion, motion, et cetera, including the long form responses?
I would like to clarify one response that I made that could be misconstrued. With regard to the member of the county board sitting on this committee, I had suggested, basically, the way it read was the chairperson of the Public Safety Standing Committee of the Washington County Board of Supervisors, that quote, should be addressed to include, and it should have been the option for another duly appointed and approved member of the Board of Supervisors. Not that I'm advocating for a second supervisor, but a different supervisor other than the one that is chair of the Public Safety Committee. That was my only comment for consideration in the future.
Any additional comments or discussion?
At a future discussion, or is that something we want to take up today because you don't serve as the public safety chair any longer? Although you still serve in a capacity that affects CJCC, in my opinion.
Yes.
As HHS.
Yep.
Committee, so.
It might be timely.
Point of clarification, we had this conversation either the first or second meeting when we addressed our bylaws and ultimately modified the bylaws to include referring to that role as member of the Washington County Board Executive Committee as appointed by the county board chair and approved by a majority of the CJCC. Do you
Oh,
still,
okay. There you go.
we-
Then that works.
do you still serve as on the executive committee?
Yes.
Okay, as far as I know, I'm not aware of Chairman Schleif changing his designee. Are you Attorney Stern?
He did not.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we're okay in that capacity at this point.
My mistake.
We did have a prior version that had the public safety chair, and we also did discuss, I think, other circumstances as well, ultimately settled on this version, so.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. In that same section, there was a discussion about Attorney Stern and his role as coordinator, but also the intersection of mental health and behavioral health in the criminal justice system. That did stand out to me in terms of ensuring that those issues are properly discussed and whether or not that would warrant any other role other than coordinator. Attorney Stern, you plan to be at the vast majority of subcommittees?
I will.
In your role as coordinator, do you anticipate any barriers to contributing to those conversations in terms of your role as county attorney and how your office handles, for example, Chapter 51 matters in the county?
I wouldn't normally expect to participate in those meetings, but I'm there and I have the information and I serve at the will of this committee. So absolutely, I'd be more than happy to participate where asked and provide information. I think sitting on the council itself probably is not necessary. I mean, my office is supposed to be the coordinator. I see potential conflicts there, so I'm happy to assist and help out. And Julie, of course, who heads up mental health department in my office, we work very closely together. I don't really think there's anything that, I mean, other than some courtside experiences that I would provide that she wouldn't already have information on. And I can certainly provide data on cases that have gone to court and how we've handled them and things like that as part of providing data to the CJCC.
Appreciate your comments in that regard.
Sure.
Any other of the written responses that anyone wishes to address or discuss? Hearing none, then we will conclude this section of our agenda, having addressed this, well, having ultimately adopted the commitment statement, I believe, yes, the member commitment statement. That's a tactic that we implemented from our strategic plan. Attorney Stern indicated that he will present us with a revised bylaws. Unless anyone else has a request as to that objective from the strategic plan, that ultimately would conclude that first objective on our strategic plan. As you can see, I'm tracking along with the strategic plan. I'm not sure if anyone else has it sitting in front of them, but this would conclude that objective unless there's anything anyone else wants. We did not appear to need the assistance of a facilitator, which is perfectly fine, but unless there's any other areas that anyone would like to revisit or discuss, that would conclude that area. Hearing none, we will consider that section accomplished. Then next item on our agenda is what will now be standing agenda items related to our subcommittees. And so in the event that the chairs have any items or any topics that they wish to report on, this is their opportunity to do so. So to the now 3 chairs that we have for these subcommittees, you can expect to have that opportunity on any of the agendas going forward, whether and then use the time as you see fit. Julie?
Yeah, so I can share, the behavioral health work group has met twice. And we have determined that there is no other functioning committee that could absorb this particular work group. So we have some commitment to having a new group, a new committee. And so we have gotten to a final draft of our charter. We actually met yesterday as our second meeting. And so I am sending that back out for a final feedback, final edit, and that will be ready to present at our next meeting of the CJCC. We did start having conversations about the key behavioral health crossover topics. That's our next sort of task for us to undertake before our SIMS training. So we had some robust conversations yesterday, and we're going to try to formalize that at our next meeting in August. We have decided to meet monthly at this point. And as many of you may have seen in your inbox, the SIMS training is scheduled for September. And so I feel like we're moving along on the objectives that we have outlined in our strategic plan, and the group is in a good place, I think, of forming and trying to get their heads around what our purpose is and what we hope to accomplish together.
Thank you. Any questions for Julie about where the committee is at or the work that they're doing? Thank you. Attorney Bratz, pretrial compliance?
We have, well, and I have to thank our coordinator, Mr. Stern, for his assistance on this, but we've essentially I say essentially because I'm still waiting to hear back from, or we're still waiting to hear back from Sheriff Schulteis to confirm. I know he said he would be on the subcommittee, but ultimately, whether he seeks anyone else from the sheriff's office to be on the subcommittee as well, someone specifically tailored to the jail, and whether they'd be able to provide any guidance or assistance throughout the subcommittee. But we have our group formed. We have not met yet, but hopefully be setting that up in the near future, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and we can discuss the draft charter for the work group. And so, but we ultimately have a group.
Sounds good, thank you. Any additional, they're obviously just getting kicked off. Any additional suggestions for Attorney Bratz as to membership for pretrial compliance? It looks like he might be still open to suggestions if you have anyone from your agency that might be of assistance to that group, perhaps.
Yeah, Brad, the Attorney Stern and I had a brief conversation yesterday that there was some request or recommendation for an HHS member.
Right.
And I'd just like to get a little bit more feedback from you on sort of in what area or area of expertise that you
Well,
think would be best.
Ultimately,
Or
I
decision
suppose why I wanted somebody from your agency was specifically if the conversations of mental health commitments come up, how that interacts with the criminal justice system, how that interacts with pretrial compliance. Early intervention, I know I've talked to a number of folks independently, how there's sort of this gap between mental health concerns and the criminal justice system. I mean, I often say a lot of times it's too late by the time it gets to us. And so just, I'm uncertain if the conversation will go that way or the discussion will go that way, but in the event that it does, having somebody there that can give insight and input regarding how potentially, like I said, mental health commitments interact with pretrial compliance. And so that was ultimately my thought process there.
Good, that's helpful. So I'll talk to my team and see who they think could be the best suited to participate.
Okay, and I can say, I mean, Doug Newman, the chair of the Public Safety Committee, has agreed to be part of the work group. Carly's agreed to be part of the work group, so thank you for that. And Judge Kenneth as well has agreed to be part of the work group. So, I mean, we do have a solid foundation, and I'm always hesitant to make work groups too large. And so I'm trying to keep it somewhat small. And so I think with what we have, and certainly Julie, if we can confirm somebody from your agency, I think that's ultimately where we'll land. And of course, County Attorney Stern helping us along the way.
Be there right by your side the whole time. Maybe just as a point of reassurance, that was definitely one of our topics that we discussed yesterday in our subgroup. Early intervention, prevention, we're entering the criminal justice system, how would approach even deferred prosecutions as a manner of forcing treatment. It's probably not the right word to say, but you get my point. So as a way of assurance, that's kind of a neat thing, right? That is our cross category topics. And so getting direction, Julie pointed out many times yesterday, bringing our work forward to the CJCC, the full board, and then getting direction from the CJCC. Take back and continue working on will be fueled by both of our groups. I guess that's kind of another indicator that this is working.
Mm-hmm. Also want to encourage, and I'm sure this would occur even if I didn't say it, but wanted to encourage communication between the committee chairs as well. There's overlap I'm telling you what you know, there's overlap in these issues. And so not just utilizing the CJCC meetings to share what's happening between your groups and the issues that are being identified, because they are overlapping, and then that communication and directing your groups so that you are in alignment, not duplicating, I think would be fantastic. I'm sure you would have done it anyway, but appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, last thing I have on the agenda is to take a look at the plan tracker. This was a tool that was provided by JMI, in terms of holding ourselves accountable to our strategic plan and identifying what we have accomplished, what is in progress, and what we have yet to take action on. It very much provides that framework to us, and as you can see, annotations have been provided to indicate where we have made accomplishments, what is in progress, and what is yet underway. It is being followed in logical order. These tasks are set out in a logical framework, and that's what's being followed. Any specific requests in terms of next steps in light of where the work of the subcommittees is headed, meaning jump to this next for the CJCC because it will help the subcommittee, or if not, we will continue on in terms of the logical next steps. Hearing none, we will continue on then in terms of the logical next steps for our agenda, which our next meeting will be August 11th. And in the absence of any other issues, I will move to adjourn.
This one, I think it was on both of these work groups at one point in time. JMI kind of just threw me on there and then I don't know what happened. So I just advocating if either one group.
I think we did identify somebody from your team and me on our work group. So I'll add you to the mix.
I think I told JMI just throw me on and when the initial work group started, and I think they threw me on all of them. And then I was only able to make the one of them, so I don't know. So just offering the availability to
Unless you have a preference, right?
well, I can see what offers around.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Department of Corrections, right, we're unique in that regard, where we handle, granted, the pre-trial comes before they enter the criminal justice system, but at the same time, we have a lot of individuals that are currently in the system that also are still part of the pre-trial process. And then the everyday mental health aspect is very relevant in our agency. So I think that the department's perspective could be well fit in either or. So I'll let that.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, the department also utilizes some agencies that currently have services that would mirror potential pretrial services that they currently engage with, that the county justice system has not engaged with yet. And so they may have some insight and experience to offer in that regard as well, for the point of pretrial monitoring. So.
I'm not saying that only one offer has to hit. I'm just I generally be thankful for both.
Yes.
Just confirming, you want me to turn on the website, or do you want me to hold off?
I wasn't necessarily advocating for that. I would like, let me be more specific and see if the group is on board for that. My vision was looking for a suggestion from the communications group as to what the website content would be, and perhaps a update to provide to the group where everyone says, we're comfortable with this, and then at the next meeting, you turn it on,
Okay.
to use your language.
Sure.
So that the group has a chance to take a look at it before it's turned on and the content is viewed by everyone.
Very good.
I appreciate the focus on whether I say turn it on or not, but the website belongs to the entire membership, and whatever is included on there, I certainly would want everyone to have an opportunity to review as well. So sound like a
Very
plan?
good. Thank you.
Okay, then with that, 8:30, I'll move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for your time.